Shannon Bartholomew, Executive Director of the Houston Institute for Religious Liberty. You may be wondering what I have in my hand here. This is the Electronic Crimes Bill of 2013 of Grenada. Now I'm browsing through the bill with regards to a particular section, that is section 2. And my concern is, I will read for you a small portion on sending offensive messages through communication services, etc. And it reads, 1. This is section 6, subsection 1. A person shall not knowingly or without lawful excuse or justification send by means of an electronic system or an electronic device A. Information that is grossly offensive or has a menacing character. B. Information which he or she knows to be false, but for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, or ill will, persistently by making use of such electronic system or electronic device. Unquote. I'm not going any further into the bill, because this is where the concern is. Now, when you look to the part of the act that deals with the definition of the terminology used within the act, none of these terms are defined. So you don't get a definition of grossly offensive, insult, enmity, hatred, or ill will. And these are terms that are used within the provision itself. And let's just listen to subsection 3 under the same section. A person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $100,000 or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 1 year or to both. Unquote. This is making criminal offensiveness, insult, enmity, hatred, or ill will. It's very unfortunate that the country of Grenada is going in this direction. The framers of this piece of legislation reflects incompetence and lack of experience. Grenada is a young nation. It's a young country. And to have legislation like this, where it is now getting off the ground, and we are living in the age of republicanism, it's unfortunate to see such legislation. Listen, when it comes to terms like offense, hatred, insult, those are not terms that can be defined in law. And especially where we are living in an age of republicanism, to have laws based on offense, based on insult, those are terms that are not definable. You can't define what is offense in law, because what offends one person may not be another. So offense cannot be defined by law. It's not definable. And when you are drafting legislation, it's a very meticulous process. The wording of a provision must be drafted or framed in a way to avoid any sort of abuse or misinterpretation, because it is law you are drafting. And especially in a republic that is based upon rights and freedoms. This piece of legislation cannot work. It's going to damage the country of Grenada, and it's sending them down a road that is more anti-rights and freedoms than pro-rights and freedoms. If they are to develop a republic, for the country to advance and really go somewhere, this is not the way to go. I think Keith Mitchell needs to get rid of this bill for Grenada to take off and really become a republic in the Caribbean, and to further the advancement of CARICOM. We are living in an age of republicanism. The United States of America have actually started a new era, an era of republicanism, an era of rights and freedom, an era of free society. At this point in time, in this age, for us to have legislation that goes against such will only set back the country. With regards to Grenada's Electronic Crime Bill 2013, which is what I have in my hand here, there's a clause within the bill that addresses the issue of free speech when it comes to communicating via the internet or any sort of electronic device. In this bill, the framers attempted to create an offense out of certain communication that, if not repealed, will cause the society to go down the road of intolerance. If it is a draft law based on offense, and given that offense cannot be easily defined, it is not even attainable to define offense for the purposes of law, you have to go so far in the drafting that a lot of other freedoms will be taken away in the process. And what that is going to do is going to breed in society a spirit of intolerance, a spirit of offensiveness, and with such you're going to cause later on down the road persecution, oppression, not only at the level of government, but at the level of society. For instance, in China, you are allowed to be a Christian, but in your home, not in society, you cannot preach the gospel and advance it freely without interference. Even in China, you have families that will persecute your own family members, will persecute you for the sake of turning to Christ or for the sake of becoming a Christian. So it is dangerous to be Christian in China as well as many other countries of today. Here it is in our republic. It's a free society. The purpose of a free society is to encourage competition and the level of religions. The more religions exist in a society is actually a plus for that society, because it would mean persons will have to exercise greater religious tolerance because of the differences of beliefs in the society. So by having many religions in society tends to foster a spirit of religious tolerance. It tends to foster the interest in religious dialogue. And such a phenomenon, such a reality will encourage development of having to live with differences, having to cope with differences. And that's necessary within a republic, within a free society. Such is needed in our Caribbean as we are now developing. We are not first world, we are within the stage of development. To have legislation like what is included in this provision in the crime bill of Grenada is only going to set back the country, it's going to hinder the development, and it's going to prevent them from becoming a republic as after the model of America. Of course, not America as they are currently going through, but a republic where rights and freedoms are protected and a free society is created. Let me just read a portion of the act so you could get exactly what it says. Now it is part 2 of the offenses division dealing with sending offensive messages through communication services. And this is what it says, quote, Section 6, subsection 1. A person shall not knowingly or without lawful excuse or justification send by means of an electronic system or an electronic device A. Information that is grossly offensive or has a menacing character. B. Information which he or she knows to be false, but for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, or ill will persistently by making use of such electronic system or electronic device. Unquote. So I'm not going any further. That's essentially the problem area in the provisions here. Subsection A and B of this part of the Act. These terms that I use here are not supposed to be used this way in the drafting of law. So you can't use insult, intimidation, enmity, hatred, or ill will, because these terms cannot be clarified, cannot be defined in law, because what may affect one person certainly is not going to affect all persons, and such differences in society reflects or cause another level of reality to come into existence, which is when it comes to the drafting of laws or legislation, you cannot draft legislation to deal with enmity, to deal with intimidation, to deal with insult, and to deal with offense. It's not possible to do it. Because if it is, you have to accomplish that, it will have to be drafted very widely, and by drafting it with such width, it will become draconian, because it's going to take away many other rights and freedoms that are entitled to all persons.